So
Nice.
Liberty Live 25. We got Travis here with us, our buddy.
Who probably has a real microphone.
He's going to sound fine. We're going to sound like wonky,
Like hammered
unbalanced
shit.
garbage as
That
usual.
apparently we don't care to fix. So
I was online with microphones in my shopping cart. I got sick earlier this week. Again, when you have a kid, I've got a 3-year-old going to preschool, and then I usually don't get sick for long, ever periods of time. And then I get a kid that goes to school, and October time frame, September, I start counting the weeks when I'm not sick.
yeah.
Oh God,
They're just little harbingers of disease.
Yeah.
The bearers of disease.
So I've got.
I've never been sick before.
Never been sick?
Well, that's the story I'm going with.
Well, in our own different flavors, we're variously libertarian. Travis, you watched a debate between Dave Smith and Wilson.
Yeah, Andrew Wilson v. Dave Smith. It was pretty good. It was. I'm usually a fan of Dave Smith. I'm still a fan of Dave Smith.
I love Dave Smith.
Pretty like-minded, but I think it's fair to say he got destroyed in this debate.
Wow, destroyed?
Yeah, I would say destroyed.
He's so good.
He was caught off guard, I think. I don't know. Yeah, I'll send you guys the video later, but yeah, Andrew Wilson just did a really good point at showing Dave that Dave doesn't really follow the non-aggression principle. He follows his Christian ethics. It just so happens that a lot of times those like overlap. And it was a really interesting debate. Gave me some food for thought for sure.
Nice.
So I left the Libertarian Party. Here I am.
You're done. Kaput.
Well, I'm not really done. So we have like a local affiliate that was like the most active county level party in the state of Oregon. And we disaffiliated and we sort of rebranded. So now we're called a decentralized cell is the phrase that we've been telling people.
The decentralized cell?
A decentralized cell. Yeah, we use the word cell. It's a little bit more provocative. And so we're it's for a lot less stressful though. So our meetings, it's more like a club, right? So our meetings, we don't have to do business meetings, right? We're not taking minutes. We don't have a bank account anymore. So if we're trying to do some sort of event or if trying to do something like host something, we don't pay for it ourselves. We just I'll sign a cadre member, and then they just take care of the finances. And it's just a lot more open. And then with that said, we're not making any reports to like the Secretary of State anymore. So but on the flip side, we're no longer like a political action committee. We can't run candidates for office,
Right.
But it's kind of like if there's like a candidate we support, we can still like vouch for them and talk crap about their candidates, the opposing candidates, right? So It's still like you still have all your Bill of Rights as individual cadre members, so you can still do stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it also like frees us up because for example, one of the first things we did as a group was we were feeding kids in our county for free. So we had this meal plan, and it was just lunches. So during the summer, if you're like a school-age child in the county, we'll give you lunches every Monday for like the whole week, right? And it's free. There's no cost. We just have to verify that you're in the county. And our county is so small, like it's not like we're taking their names down or anything. Like we just know we've heard of you, right? And so we don't have people from like the next county over coming over and taking advantage of it or something. But so familiar folks signing up for free, they're not even signing anything up. They're just reaching out, and we add them to a list and coordinate delivery. We deliver it, and then everything's volunteer based and privately funded. We even had like a county organization offer to potentially pay for some of it, and we're like, no thanks. We wanted to be able to boast that we can do it privately, and with just volunteers, just opt in, right? And so, but when we were asking for donations for this, because we're like going to Fred Meyer the day before to buy all the groceries, right? It's all fresh and healthy food, and our first 2 donations were in Bitcoin.
Nice.
Which, if we had done this as a PAC in the state of Oregon, it's illegal to accept cryptocurrency donations, just flat out. It's like one of the shortest ordinances.
Jesus.
Or statutes, rather. Yeah, so it was like, it is just really easy to donate to it, right? It's just like whatever works for you. We had people like mailing in checks and
Nice.
stuff like that. So
now you can take Bitcoin.
yeah, we can take Bitcoin, but yeah, so we rebranded. We're like a decentralized group of
Cell.
people. Some might refer to us as a cell.
You've decelerated the political show that's going on. That I'm always cynical about when things get real political or too big. But in a small community, you have a much larger range for a voice and influence and effect. So,
Yeah, we're having fun. We do Bitcoin meetups as well, obviously. Anything
Yeah,
that
like when the three of
Tonight-
workshops. Yeah.
and Bitcoin meetup right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll be there.
meet up.
By the
That's
time
my joke. I'm never going to get tired of it. So
good enough for me. I'm happy to see us. I'll invite plenty of people, and they variously can't make it because kids or soccer games or
because it's
Forgot.
Bitcoin and they don't want to fucking talk about it,
or
because they could give a shit about Bitcoin.
I'm happy to talk with you about it like incessantly, but a meetup,
Yeah.
that's extreme. No,
Yeah, pretty
you're
much.
committing to something social, I guess. So you got to know you like it.
How's things going at Swan, man?
Good. I'm I still work there.
Still have a job.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. I every now and then I'll just like remind myself like, man, I have such a such a great job. Like working remote,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of flexibility to the schedule. It's so nice. I can wear flip-flops to work and shorts. It's hard to beat that,
That's what Lubka does anyway, right?
That's what? Say that again?
Isn't that what Stephen Lubka does anyway? Flip-flops?
Probably. Yeah, he's down in Florida, so.
Yeah. Well, he's getting swept away by the hurricane right now, I think.
Yeah, that's a rough situation.
You wrote a good long post on Noster that I saw about, with stuff in the light of things going on in Eastern Tennessee, North Carolina, FEMA, and all that. And there's a fog of war. You can accuse people of stuff. But yeah, you wrote a post about FEMA and coming to a small county and saying, "Hey, we got money for you, and all you got to do is this." Oh, but also.
Yeah.
Kind of more than that, too.
You got to be our bitch.
You got to change your laws.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I did that write up because there's so much crap talking about FEMA. So I was like, well, I could do that too. And so, yeah, I'm on the local city council here. And so, yeah, I had a little incident with FEMA where they wanted us to join their flood insurance program. And there's all these like, things you have to do if you join, right? And if you don't join, you're no longer eligible for millions of dollars as a city that the city's dependent on. Like all of our cities are, it's very reminiscent of central planning. I don't really like it at all. But I still voted no on everything, and I even had one of my first caveats when they voted to join the program. Part of the join the program is you have to essentially force everyone in the flood zone to buy their insurance. And so you have to have like a local city ordinance where you're enforcing it. And I knew I was going to be outvoted, and I made like a little plea, and I said, hey, let's at least pass an ordinance that is unenforceable. Like let's just make it so bare bones that it's like, yes, it's on the books, but it's not really enforceable, right?
Yeah.
And that couldn't even be done because FEMA actually provides you the written ordinance. And I was aware that another city tried to edit it slightly, and that's a no-go. You can't edit it at all. So they literally write a law for you, and they say you have to pass this in your local city.
Nice.
And it just bothered me so much. And so I voted no. I wanted to trespass them from all city property. I still do. I think we should still trespass them.
You have to be invited.
Yeah.
I think I can pull that one off because you don't even have to tell them unless they show up. Just kind of give them a reminder like, hey, you're not allowed to be on this property.
Yeah.
The thing is, they don't usually physically show up, right? Like they'll do like they'll zoom in. And in fact, when they were introducing our city council to this flood insurance program, there was like 10 of them that zoomed in at the same time to our city council meeting. They outnumbered us, right, like 2-1. And I remember thinking, I wonder how much of them are being paid to do this.
All of them.
Like how much? I mean,
right now.
like of course they're being paid, but like how many salaries? They're there for like an hour and a half. And it's just like it was just like a in my face reminder of how much waste
The amount of
is
money.
going into that program. It's just makes me sick.
And just imagine town by town by town.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exponentially magnify that waste, and you got the U.S. government.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
just kind of a cultural or a psychological precedent that, oh, no, we pass ordinances for FEMA like this, for reasons. I mean, just an effect they can have on local jurisdictions in their laws and business, I guess.
Yeah, I even went to their open house, which they were there in physical person. And I think like 3 or 4 people from the county showed up. I mean, it's just they do these big things and no one's paying attention, right? But, I showed up and I was nice to them and stuff. Not super confrontational. I did have a little sticker though on my shirt that said "privatize everything," but they don't know what that means. But I remember talking to some of them, including one of them was I think like some director at FEMA at the state level, I think. And I remember I pitched the idea, hey, why don't you, if this flood insurance program is so good, why don't you make it voluntary, like individual homeowners can join it, especially like the ones that are in the flood zone that might worry about it. And I could just tell on the look on their face, like they had never pondered that. That's like not even in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
It just kind of reminds me of those folks kind of just generally out there that they see like a problem in society and their immediate go-to is, well, we need the state. How can the state solve that problem?
Right.
And that was one of the reasons we try to do our feeding the kids thing is like, we don't have to default to the state solving community issues. Why don't we just do it as a community? And then while we're doing that, like leave the extortion element and the force thing out of it. But
well, the funny thing about it is like a lot of those self-help initiatives, the state will come in and shut you down. Like they'll start interfering with what you're trying to do. So they end up, when you don't rely on them. I mean, their whole frame of mind is like, well, if it's not in our control, it's by definition out of control, and we can't have that, right? So that's kind of
like free speech.
Did you lock our door?
Oh, I better lock the door.
Yeah.
Bear with me. You can talk to.
Yeah, you don't want any of that riffraff, local riffraff coming in.
Yeah.
Not really, but right before I get to that, the Bitcoin veterans are out there now doing deliveries, and then anecdotal stories I have where FEMA. It's like, what is FEMA doing? It's like, okay, block the roads. You can't go in. We'll sit on a box with stuff, and then anyone distributing stuff, we're also going to like go in and say, no. You need to inventory. We're here to inventory everything you have and what you're doing. It's like, we're just trying to get stuff out. And they're like, stop. Inventory. Right. It's like, can we just cut this tree open and drive in on our ATVs and drop off some water or hay or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, I don't now on the ground. You hear these anecdotal stories. It's easy to dramatize. I also believe it because I have another story from 20 years ago after 9/11 and stuff related to FEMA and ICS training that we all had to go through. And it was like strings attached over money and policy changes and rules we had to enforce. And it was kind of, it seemed plausibly for good reasons that, we'll all be trained in the case of an emergency. And, you can't buy all the new radios you want without our money. Punchline, though, after all this training was basically like, that when shit hits the fan and we show up, we are in control. Got it?
Right.
Your sheriff, he stands by. Your agency as a whole, they know who the experts are, and that's us. You fit into our incident command center, and you help, and you're an integral core component. But the incident commander is not who you thought it might have been, or it was, but it changes. And it's like, got it. Yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah, you're the boss.
Yeah. FBI or whoever, FEMA, you are the boss now. They show up. It's like a movie script where FBI shows up, and there's the incident commanders are arguing over who's really in charge of this incident now.
This is my scene, buddy.
This is my scene. We're the FBI. Stand aside.
Get out of the way, punk.
Yeah, we know how that turned out in Die Hard.
Die Hard, that's what it was.
Well, Sheriff of Sherman County was talking about, they had fires out there, and they had all these meteorologists and all this shit up on the walls, and we need to go here and here, and the farmers are going, no, you need to be over here, and these guys are completely fucking clueless. Farmers knew exactly where they needed to go because they've been fighting these fires for 300 years. These guys come in with all their gadgets and their shit, and their 3-letter degrees and whatnot, and they go, no, but had the sheriff listened to him, those fires would have been a fucking disaster, but he didn't. He said, no, we're going here. You guys can go fuck yourselves. And,
Yeah, we had a big fire come through a few years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago through our county. And we had that situation. I remember I was with the sheriff in their little incident command area when the sheriff told them that every farmer in this county will have these, I think he called them mini tanks, like different combine kind of equipment.
Yeah.
And they're going to be doing what they're doing to fight the fires. And you need to learn to work with them and just don't get in their way, right. Something along those lines. And I always remembered him saying that. I thought I really liked that. And, and you're right. Like these guys they have the right incentives to stop the fires, right? Like it's their land and their lifestyle that they're defending, and so they have the right incentives to be efficient at stopping the fires, even if it's not their area. That's if it's your neighbor's area on fire, you're still incentivized to put it out right before it reaches your property. So it's I got when I worked for the sheriff's office here, got a lot of experience fighting fires. Because a lot of times, like the deputies would be the first ones there, and because you're already out and about, right? And then we would carry like water bags and shovels and axes in our patrol cars, just so you can if it's like a small fire, it just started,
right?
You might be able to put it out and have a significant impact. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Hey, are you able to hear us? Okay.
I can hear you guys. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Our audio is quiet, but it's probably not you. It's us. It'll sound.
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out. I think last time it worked out okay. What else is going on? Oh, yeah, HBO documentary. You saw it. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
I'm not watching that shit.
I would say...
You should watch it.
You don't have to bother. You don't... when you're a Bitcoiner at your level, you don't need to see it. It could make you a little dumber.
Right.
Although... with a little bit of an open mind, it's quite entertaining. It's well produced. I mean, HBO, all that. It is very well produced. And like Travis and I talked about it. It was I enjoyed it. And if you knew nothing about Bitcoin or just a little, there's a lot of good lead up sort of Bitcoin 101 history and stuff. I hadn't seen the footage. I'd heard of it, but they went into it pretty well. Some of the players, the block size war, and Bitcoin Core and some of the early development. And it was, and some interesting interviews. I mean, part of it too is also kind of a Samson Mao Jan 3 promo.
Nice.
Like it's following him as he's traveling to different countries and orange pilling like
world leaders.
Yeah. And that was cool to see.
Yeah.
And you can just
There's
kind
some cool interviews in there.
Oh,
yeah.
There's so much good work happening here, and that's kind of really where a lot of the tip of the spear is at right now, is like convince the people in charge of places that could benefit their whole country. And that was interesting. Adam Back was great as always, his aloof, quiet nature just plays perfectly. And I don't care if we spoiler alert or whatever, but then right towards the end, and sprinkled throughout, but then right towards the end, they come out with this out of the blue, weak, random sort of anecdotal stretch of an argument to say that Peter Todd is Satoshi. We figured it out, and here's why. And it's such a stretch. And the whole time, it's like the counter arguments to all that are not gone into
At
And
all.
there's many.
Of course, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
He would have been, what, 13 when...
He would have been 15 when he first contacted Adam Back, clearly dipping his toes into the area, but not writing on what is now Bitcoin. And then even when Bitcoin was announced and released, he would have been like, 16, 17.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. What were you guys doing at 15,
very
16,
clearly
17?
The guy, the 16-year-old super genius.
Not that Satoshi was the most brilliant programmer, but he was damn good. This kid, no, and also a troll. And anyway, one piece of and his politics and everything, it doesn't really align. Satoshi was pretty measured and careful, and then this guy comes out as just kind of a response guy, reply guy, troll. But anyway, the one piece of evidence they use is like the clincher, is that Satoshi had posted. Well, so like this kid had made his account just a week on the Bitcoin forums, like a week before Satoshi disappears, and then after Satoshi disappears, this kid also kind of is out of the scene for a little while too. In the course of having talked about replaced by fee, which hadn't been implemented yet. But Satoshi, in that window, Satoshi had posted about replaced by fee, the idea of replaced by fee. And then like 14 hours later, Peter Todd replies to the thread after lots of discussion that Satoshi had just said, the inputs and outputs would be the same and it could be complicated. Like not sorting out how we do this. And Peter Todd replies with, well, of course, the inputs and outputs can't be exactly the same if the fee changes. Like, the documentary makes it sound like this is a really technical concept that Satoshi was finishing a thought about because it's so technical and it was part of what he was saying. The thing is, other people were replying to it. Peter Todd jumps in and just kind of says a yeah, but kind of a comment. Like, actually, and it's just a little technical, like, well, yeah, if something costs $5 and tax goes from 1% to 2%, the amount you pay is not going to be the same. Okay, not a complicated concept. The documentary juxtaposes the two like, as if one came right after the other and makes the argument that he had two accounts and then logged out, but then logged into the wrong account and continued his thought as if he was finishing his thread. But the opposite argument is actually more sensible, that this other kid says, but actually 14 hours later, some little gotcha point.
Yeah.
Which was not complicated. Actually, the inputs and outputs wouldn't be the same.
I like that the documentary pointed out that his response was highly technical.
Yeah, it was like,
I mean, if you've been into Bitcoin like remotely long enough, you're like, that wasn't all that technical.
No, it's like, our fee went from 5 cents to 10 cents, so your dollar coffee is not $1.05, it's $1.10. Not technical.
It was a good documentary. I mean, I didn't agree with like the conclusion at the end of who Satoshi might be, but it has just a lot of good like Bitcoin history in there and stuff. And I'm glad I watched it, and especially if I'm talking to other folks, that it'd be nice. I think that's why you should watch it, Daniel. Is if someone's going to mention it to you, and you're gonna want to correct them or be like, well, you'll have a little bit more context of what they're talking about while you're trying to orange pill them or something, right?
Yeah, maybe. I'll check it out.
It's only like an hour and a half.
That interview you got with the debate. Please don't forget to send that to me. I want to watch that.
Yeah, I'll do that. And then, it's pretty entertaining. That Andrew Wilson guy is pretty entertaining in general. He's famous for his debates and being pretty provocative. Like, they throw him on the Whatever podcast quite a bit, and he's just, he's up against OnlyFans girls, and they're debating about topics, right? You can just imagine how those go. Oh boy.
Snippets from that thing, and I'm always just, it seems like it's just pure cringe all the time, So I've never seen a full episode all the way through, but just watching.
Yeah, me neither.
There, and I don't know, there's some little Argentinian kid that was calling those chicks like illiterate and all this shit. I thought that was kind of funny. Because he's like 15 and going, well, you're illiterate. Well, name 6 books, And They couldn't do
Yeah, I've
it.
seen that clip.
Game of Thrones. He's like, it's not Game of Thrones. It's fucking Song of Ice and Fire. This, that, and the other thing. You don't even know that. Like, what are you talking about? And just hammers these chicks. It's kind of hilarious, and I kind of feel bad for him in a way too. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you gonna be in LA next week, man?
Say that again?
You gonna be in LA next week?
No, I've
Wah.
been on a lot of trips this year, and I kind of feel bad because when I'm gone, sometimes I'll like tune in and work, but definitely not working as much, and so I just kind of feel bad. It's not like, and it does cost money, right? Like they'd put me up in a hotel at least, but you still inevitably spend a lot, like your flights or if you're driving, and then you're eating out a lot and partying and
Got to save up for El Salvador.
Yeah, when are you going back to El Salvador, man?
Man, I want to go so bad, but I'm renovating this hotel, and there's like so many expenses that I could pay.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would the responsible person do? But
oh man,
I got to pay my taxes. My property taxes are due. It's just, dude. It kind of depends though. Like I have this like classic pickup truck that I'm trying to sell, and I haven't been trying very hard, but if I sell it, I'm just going to probably go. Like it'll fund the whole trip.
Yeah.
And
well, how much did it cost you last time, if you don't mind my asking?
It's probably like $6,000 for my wife and I.
Yeah. Fuck, man.
Yeah, but that's staying at like really nice places, like renting a whole house, staying in a nice hotel in El Tunco.
Well, how much was the flight?
That was like really expensive. I was shocked. I thought I could get like a flight for like under $200, but that's not the case. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was probably like $600 each or something.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It could be worse.
For that golf, for Max and Stacy.
Yeah.
I wish if I had help, I would have bought tickets to participate, but whatever.
So what I've been number crunching lately, and what I think the way to go is we're considering renting a house and just staying in that one house the whole time, and then having it big enough where you can bring like 3 or 4 families, and then you sort of share, you spread out the cost of the house, and then it's really just the flight and the food. And then if you're staying at the house, if you plan ahead and you have like a couple rental cars and you're like going to the grocery stores and buying, because we're trying to bring our kids, right? And so it's like, we're not going to go to a restaurant every meal. Like that's just going to be too expensive. So I think we can cut a lot of costs down if we like go with others, with friends, do groceries. And then the flights are just like still the big thing. So I think, basically our numbers, I think I can go like in November, December this year at about like $1,100 per person.
Oh.
So, I have a family of 6, so that's still a lot of money.
Yeah, it's still.
But it's, it's just gonna be expensive unless you have your own plane or something. But
you got kids, it's a little more complicated. I'm still working on my wife to say, hey, we got to get down there. And once we're down there, like, do we need to come back?
Well, that's the thing. I'm fucking full-time Bitcoin now, man. So, so kind of the world is my oyster at this point.
You mean job-wise?
Yeah, I bounced, man. I'm done.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You made that unemployment remark earlier.
Yeah.
And I thought you were just joking.
Yeah, I was.
Well, congratulations. That's exciting. I'll have to learn more at the Bitcoin meetup. Yeah, I'm definitely curious now.
Yeah,
we're meeting up. It's the freedom, the feeling of freedom, the liberation. For any reason, when you've got that space and time, when you're so used to, the business grind of hours and calls and after hours, and then when you do, other than just a vacation, nice to take a vacation, but when you really have a sabbatical of time, oh my gosh, you forget what like living life is like.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm about 3 or 4 weeks away from launching this new product of ours, so I'm hoping that'll do well. Yeah, I mean, you never know if you're starting a business, right? But it's close, man. We've got prototypes made already. I just found a place that can manufacture these things for a reasonable cost. So yeah, it's all kind of moving ahead.
That's exciting.
Pardon?
I said that's exciting. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's going to be cool. I think so. Looking forward to it. But
Close to announcements.
close to announcements. Yeah,
Cool.
still super secret. But
Okay, yeah, we'll talk later tonight.
yeah, yeah.
I just noticed the time though. I have to go to that farmer's market that I told you guys about. So it was
Yeah.
nice chatting with you guys. And I'm
man.
going to bounce, but I will see you guys
Yeah,
tonight.
just make sure to keep your window open after you log off to let the thing upload.
Okay, will do.
All right, thanks, man. Good to see
Bye.
you.
Cool.
Likewise.
Ah,
We're back. We can see our faces.
Christ.
Big now. Here we are.
Is that what we look like?
Oh my God! This whole time we've looked like this. No, it's a couple of handsome Bitcoiners.
Oh, maybe one. I don't know.
Would you say the average Bitcoiner is as handsome, less handsome, more handsome than the other average American Fed cowgirl?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Part of me feels it's a weird mix because you got people that they've gotten their base principles for a while now, and maybe they're eating better, or they've got their time preferences together, and they're taking care of things, and they're healthier mentally and physically, or on that track. And then you have others that don't care as much about that and are spending a lot of time in front of the computer and may not be healthy. Well, like the Portland conference. It's easy to go to, say, Portland, where people who, one, are willing to pay some money and afford to go to a conference. Not a lot, but you've got that kind of spare time and interest in money.
Yeah.
So you're going to a conference. And so as a class of people, there's a lot of healthy, attractive-looking people, generally.
Really?
At that conference, I thought so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they're all men, so.
It is 90% men.
Yeah.
That's another piece of it.
If you're a Bitcoiner, you are forever constrained or relegated to just never-ending sausage parties, man. It's fucking terrible.
Until you get to be, if you're a
Until you
whale
got,
where you
like,
have an entourage of your women, I suppose. Yeah. There's
Until
that.
you get that wife-changing money,
Yeah.
you're in the sausage fest.
There's fuck you money, and then there's fuck me money.
All right. All right.
And there's a bit of that, like.
Well, there's life-changing money and there's wife-changing money. So. Yeah. But, I don't know, man. We'll see.
We're handsome. I'm just going to say that. Well, let me show you something.
Uh-oh. You got props. I forgot to ask Travis about my book. He didn't bring it up. Maybe he doesn't like it.
I brought it up.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
I have the book.
My book. Have you read it
You
yet?
have to sign it.
Oh, I got to sign it? Look, the spine's not cracked, so.
Well, I just got it.
Did you really? Thank you,
I read
Fritz.
all that's online.
That's true.
So I haven't read all the footnotes, you bet.
So you haven't, did you read all the updated stuff, or did you read the old stuff?
I went back and read through it again, yes.
Did you really?
Yeah. And that was a couple weeks ago,
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that was done by
I think it was a bit
my book.
after you updated it all and had re-announced it, but it wasn't on Amazon yet. But I went back through, and now what I don't get when I read it online, the way I read it, because I'll download it to save it for later when I'm offline or whatever, and I have time, and I'll read. And I don't always get all the graphs or the pictures that you have in there.
Oh.
And sometimes you'll refer to something, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back and check that. So, but I love it. Just when you have it in the hand, I just want to have a book on my shelf sometimes. Like I know I can read it online anytime, and that it can be updated and stuff.
Yeah.
I do love having a book.
Nice.
So yeah, good job.
Thank you.
It's a nice product.
Yeah, I actually sent like 10 or 20 of them down to the Santa Monica Bitcoin office.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they're going to be available next week in Los Angeles. People can, I don't know, they're going to either be part of the library or they're going to sell them, or I don't know what they're going to do with them. But
Are you taking some down with you to LA?
No. There's just going to be some at the Santa Monica office. So, but I guess I can talk about it. Maybe I'll take a few. I don't know.
You never know. Like you run into a cool, important person who happens to be interested, and they're interested enough, and you.
Yeah.
Here
hey,
you
man,
go.
Check out my book, bro. Yeah, I suppose I could.
Get on some
That's
podcast.
probably a good idea. I don't know.
You never know.
Yeah.
What? So tell me about LA, because I've only landed in there, and I've either driven through it, landed and driven out, or driven in and flown out.
Right.
And I've not hung out or whatever. And it's easy to judge from afar of like, oh, LA's got issues or big city issues in the last 10 years, homelessness, whatever. Having lived there for a while, and when you go to visit, what is LA like?
I love it, man. I was actually just down there for some training on Monday and Tuesday, and a little bit of Wednesday. But I love it. I mean, people judge LA a lot, and 99% of those people have never really been there. Well, I went to Disneyland once, so that's not going to LA. That's going to Orange County, first of all. Second of all, if you just pop in somewhere and then pop back out, it's not like you spend any time in the city.
Right.
But it's an incredible city. It's the second largest city in America. And it's vibrant, it's got its problems for sure, just like every city does. And it's a, little wackadoodle town, so it's got that going for it. But, yeah, I mean, there's just unlimited stuff to do. It's super comfortable for me. I always feel kind of like I came home when I show up in the city, because I know it really well, and I can kind of navigate most of it without thinking too hard. And, yeah, but, there's always something new. There's a spirit of entrepreneurship going on always. There's always some new business opening up. There's always some new building going up. There's always some new thing happening. And so there's people that are moving and shaking, there's a pulse to that city. If you come to a place like where we're at, it's just people are so set in their ways. They have no idea what is possible in the world. And they're kind of relegated to their roles, and they don't ever get outside of them. And right. I think it's incredibly isolating, people just... I mean, there's merit to small town life and small town America and the things you learn and some of the resilience you get from it and things like that. But there's also, I think, something really important about being part of the world and recognizing that there's a lot of things going on that you just won't see, won't experience, won't ever deal with in a small town.
Or being into, there's new, different, exciting interesting stuff going on, and just kind of being open and interested in what's happening versus not fearing change, but being suspicious of what stands out and oh, that's different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a buddy when I lived in LA. My friend moved there from New York City, and he adapted to LA like that. I mean, it was nothing. It was easy for him because in New York, it's an even more condensed version of what's happening in LA. But it's also another super vibrant city, and there's always shit going on. There's always something to do. It's a 24-hour-a-day city, and it's the best I can say is there's a vibrancy to it that you just don't get in other places,
I'd heard this about New York, maybe it applies to LA, where it's oh, New York is so awesome, so fun, if you have a lot of money to spend.
Well, that's true everywhere in the world.
That's really, yeah.
I mean, if you're poor in a small town, it sucks. If you're poor in a city, it sucks. If you're poor in a mid-sized city, it sucks. If you're poor in a poor country, it sucks. If you're rich in any of those spaces, life's great, So, true, and there's way more opportunity in the city. Or at least there used to be. Nowadays, it turns out that opportunity is kind of drying up. It used to be there was a serious premium. If you moved to a city, your likelihood of increasing your income went up significantly. It was 3 or 4x your earning potential just by moving to a major metropolitan area.
I totally believe it, yeah.
Nowadays, that income premium has kind of gone away. It's almost even now, where if you just stay where you're at or you go to a city, you're kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other kind of thing. But it certainly worked out for me in the 90s when I moved to LA, the early 90s. I moved there probably 2 or 3 months after the riots finished. So I walked into just a smoldering cesspit of shit. And, where I lived in Hollywood at first. And there were literally burned out buildings on Hollywood Boulevard. It's you'd see the tourists with their kids and they'd just be hiding them from just the horror of the, it was like an urban hellscape. First bar I went to, the 18th Street Gang, I was looking down and I was sitting with a chair backwards. And I looked down and there was 2 holes in it. I was what are all these holes? And I looked up on the wall and there's a bunch of holes all over the wall. I asked the bartender, I was what's going on here, man? He goes, oh, yeah, the 18th Street Gang came in here and they got in a fight and they had a big shootout. And I was oh, all right, well, that's where I'm living now.
Hmm.
There was some kid got knifed up just around the corner from my friend's house. He was laying there bleeding, and some other kid got drive-by shot right next to my other friend. I don't know. It's a weird space at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's kind of like Disneyland, but it's also sort of backsliding with all the homelessness and shit like that. So, like Santa Monica is kind of a shithole now, which is sort of ironic because it used to be like a little liberal stronghold, but now they built a rail line that goes directly from downtown to the beach, and so what that's enabled is it takes all the bums from Skid Row can just hop on a train that they don't pay for, and they just show up in Santa Monica, raise hell, steal shit, accost people, and then they go back to Skid Row. So it's like, so now I actually kind of appreciate that because Santa Monica is such a liberal fucking, because they've been isolated from that shit,
right?
And now they are having to be confronted with the shitty decisions that they've been making for the last 50 years.
I was just going to ask. I mean, I know people talk about the fourth turning or whatever, Bitcoin being the fifth turning, but like as society has changed and there's the money problem, of course. Is it as much just an urban issue with population and the money, or is it also hand in hand with the politics of how you respond to those kinds of problems? Like, does it? I mean, you see them in the urban areas more obviously, but then is it also exacerbated by progressive politics, or is it just no, it doesn't matter?
Well, I think part of the reason why progressive politics are more popular in urban centers is not just because it's liberal wackadoodles that run the place, but also because you have to be more liberal to exist with other people and other cultures. And if you are forced to commingle with people, all your little ideas about how the world should work kind of get evaporated pretty quick, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to learn how to tolerate things that you don't have to tolerate in a small town. And a lot of those sort of contrivances of like small town republicanism, if you try and adapt those to the large city environment, they don't always work out so well. You end up with some pretty shitty outcomes. Mm-hmm. But it's easy for, once that idea gets set in motion, it drifts way too far to one side or the other. So I don't know, I went to Salt Lake City, super conservative town, also super nice, super clean, but it's got its quirks about it as well, so it just kind of depends on who you are, where you're coming from, and, what the population is that you're dealing with. So.
When you're in the political realm and if you're getting elected, it's hard to sell a message to people that are, people want to vote for you for reasons and they have their own selfish motivations for voting for you. And hey, if you have access to a money printer or whatever else, you can make promises and it's just that slide. And I think it's hard to navigate traditional, say, conservative business like standards for reasons and articulate those, and where you draw a line where like we can't afford to do this, even as you're also tolerant and compassionate for people. It's like, wouldn't it be nice to, handle problems in this way that just are fiat, versus, no, we can't just do that. We need to take kind of a harder, longer path to fix this that isn't as electable this season,
Right.
It's not as good of a message when you're like, this is going to take years of this path if we bear with it together and make it fix the systems versus just, we just want this outcome. Can we throw some money at that and shuffle shit left and then shuffle it right and then explain it how it makes sense,
Yeah.
That's what I see happening a lot.
Well, that's political expediency. And like when these small towns end up with big town problems, they end up in the same shit, They end up doing the same thing. They end up making the same decisions. So I don't think it's relegated to big cities. I just think big cities it's more acute and more in your face right out of the gate versus sometimes it trickles into the Midwest or the South or stuff like that. So, but I mean, that political expediency, you can't get around it, especially if you have a money printer. Like people just, I'll just print some fucking money and we'll fix whatever problem there is. But it just ends up screwing everybody in the long run. I mean, once we went off the gold standard, like the only incentive left in this country is just scoop up as much of that shit as you can, because there's no regulating mechanism for how much you can scoop up, right? It's like as long as you can convince somebody to keep that printer running, then you get more, and you end up rich, fiat rich anyway. And without that incentive, things run different.
Yeah, add a decimal value to the big numbers and carry forward.
Yeah.
So, inflation.
Well, what did you think of the book?
I
don't think Fritz liked it.
I do like it. No, I do. Now, There are times where I'm a slow reader. If I'm really going to absorb it and grok it, I'm slow because I'll read and then I have to stop and think about it, and I'll even go back and reread, and then I'll feel like, I'm just not enough of an academic to remember everything about it. The overall arcing direction you go with it is what I love. I think what the hardest thing about it that people, like we've talked about this before, but people get to the Bitcoin chapter and sometimes you're wanting like, here's how it's going to look, folks. You want all kind of the punchlines, like now that I've laid out money and power and greed through time and today, and now Bitcoin and how Bitcoin changes things, the great realignment. And then people's next logical, when they're really into the ideas, people's next logical steps are like, what is that?
Yeah, predict
exactly.
the future. Yeah.
And so if you're wanting soothsaying future fortune telling,
it's not in the book.
It's not a fortune telling book.
No.
But it gives you enough. So what I did after I thought about it before, and after I read through it again, and after the last chapter, where I get with it in my head is I spend more time when I can, often thinking, how could this actually look? I'll look at it from different scenarios of like we talked last week about employee productivity versus wage, and what is productivity. We see a growing bottom class getting wide and shallow, and the middle class getting diluted down, and then occasional lucky ones that zoom upwards. But from wealthy to upper middle class, it's an erosion, and people scrambling to like, well, what's good now? Gold, real estate. Now there's Bitcoin. And I think sometimes, how does it look for lower middle class and the poor who are quite distracted, often under some stress, or don't know what saving is.
Yeah.
Or for them, saving is, they look at big savings numbers and they're like, $20 a month, that's nothing. It means nothing in the frame of fiat dollar thinking.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, truly.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
So how it looks for the different classes going forward into the future, I've done thought experiments about, with the great realignment, how does this play out as the fiat monster prints and does its propaganda? And man, we got a fly entertaining us here.
Driving me crazy.
So between fiat printing, the propaganda behind that, no matter who gets elected, the promises are all fiat.
Right.
Like who's paying for this? And exponentially, I don't know how this isn't collapse. But with the great realignment, and if it's not a collapse, how does that trickle down? It's accessible to all, and I feel like the people that study and get into Bitcoin are often inherently a little more capable of probably saving themselves and hustling and figuring something out anyway, maybe. And what I meet is a lot of people that so would benefit from all of this. Like, when was the best time to buy some Bitcoin? Yesterday. But when's the second best time? Right now.
Right.
And I talk to a lot of people that talk and are open about it, and they just never quite go there because they feel like, I'll never own very much.
Right.
And I try to say, it doesn't matter, just get some.
Yeah.
And I just try to think about how that plays out. And that's what I really wonder about, because what I see is a clash of Titan, the fiat Titan, and then the slowly percolating, unkillable, unstoppable Bitcoin fix to it.
Right.
But the Titan's going to be storming around, making more and more noise, and throwing out more and more distractions and reasons for stuff. And most people are going to be watching that big show, and they'll never really get it. So then when it does trickle down to them, like you've said before, it may just be that things start getting better and they don't know why.
Yeah.
Sometimes or impatiently, I'll think, is that enough? Is that enough for them? Or do they slip from middle class to less middle class in the process.
Oh, they already
before
are.
they can get back.
They already are. I mean, they're already there. Like, our middle class is gone. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. Like, people that are hanging on to that idea just aren't paying attention. If you're sub 100K a year, you're already poor in this country. You've already had your earning power, your purchasing power is devastated. It's gone.
It's crazy to think about.
Well, I mean, just you just look at the amount of money they printed over the last 4 years. Like, it's insanity. Like, and so there's no getting back from that. Like, those people are sunk. There's a reason why the upper middle class are sweating it right now, because they're next on the chopping block.
Yeah, you feel it coming.
They do, and I don't think they realize yet just how precarious their situation is. But they're going to experience it pretty quick here, and then you're only going to have the people at the top and the people at the bottom, and that's where this is leading, 100%. So with Bitcoin, what we can hopefully do is start restructuring that so people can get back up out of that pit and into the thing that's made the world sort of a tolerable place, where you have a big fat middle class and people are doing pretty good generally, and so how long that process takes, I don't know. I still think it's almost irrelevant how many individual people own Bitcoin right now, because they're not the ones. That might change your circumstance. Like, if you had Bitcoin on, like, you own Bitcoin, that's going to help you tremendously in the next decade. Mm-hmm. But people that don't own it, it's kind of similar to like how many people own real property that they rent, or how many people that own stocks. It's a subset of the population. It's not everybody. Like, the guys that live down on Skid Row don't have any stocks. They don't have any real estate. People who live in tenement housing don't have any stocks, don't have any real estate. And most of the lower and middle class now don't own stocks or real estate. They're broke. They're just paycheck to paycheck. So right now it's basically the upper middle class and the rich that own that stuff, and they keep concentrating that up and up and up. Bitcoin helps them in the regards that they don't have to hold as much of that shit to retain their wealth, but that frees up that capital to trickle back down to the people that can start affording it, especially real estate, because that's been the primary vehicle for U.S. savings for the last 80 years or something like that, right? So if you can make real estate affordable, that helps reinflate the middle class pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Like, where their fiat wages don't have to go up as much because the houses came down. That's huge. And if there's fewer and fewer rich people hoarding
Airbnbs or whatever,
right,
or just real estate,
yeah, then it makes it easier for the middle class to start increasing their capital again, right? Mm-hmm. And if they're able to do that, then that can also trickle down. Like, they don't need to do things that are quite as detrimental to the people below them, and so you can slowly reinflate them. Ideally, you bring everybody up to a place where most people are going to be operating around the middle class level, even with a nominal job. Mm-hmm. But those nominal jobs become more abundant because the bottom line people, the people that are running the companies, the businesses, the corporations, they don't have to focus as much on inflating shit and cutting costs, right? Because their balance sheet is growing in line with inflation. Because right now they have to struggle to make sure the balance sheet rises with inflation. But there's only two ways to do that. Either you increase your productivity or you decrease your costs. There's no other mechanism to make your business stay afloat, right? And there's a limit to how much more productive you can become year over year, because that, like, if you make widgets, you can't just force people to buy more of your widgets. Mm-hmm. So the only option you have left, if your costs are continually increasing, is you need to cut down on the quality of those widgets. You need to cut down on how many people are making those widgets, and you need to cut down on how those widgets get marketed and distributed. Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is degrading the overall quality of your company just to maintain your balance sheet. Mm-hmm. If you can shunt all that into Bitcoin, then you can do things like hire more people. And if you hire more people,
maintain quality,
to maintain customer service, which increases your productivity marginally. But if your balance sheet is increasing at or greater than the rate of inflation, then your company gets healthier without you having to cut costs, right? Mm-hmm. Which means you can afford to hire more people. And if more people are working in good jobs, then they have more disposable income, which increases their ability to procure necessary goods and services, which then helps them elevate, helps them start saving, which helps them ascend from these lower classes that are stuck irreparably stuck right now, they can elevate to like the lower middle class, and then the lower middle class can elevate up to the middle class, the middle class can elevate up to the upper class, and or upper middle class, and on up you go. But that's a function of sound money. That's a function of sound savings. That's a function of sound property. And
sometimes I think about what kind of role some of these big Bitcoin holder players will have. When I think of Michael Saylor, BlackRock, some of these others that, like with Saylor, I believe that down in there, his ethics and integrity and Bitcoin mindset are of quality. With BlackRock, I think morally they're just neutral on it's numbers
money.
for us.
Yeah,
it's just
numbers.
money.
Yeah.
But they know what money is, and so they get in on this. They have this huge Bitcoin holdings. Now, ultimately, I'd figure they're good to their customers in terms of, honoring the spot buying and selling of Bitcoin. But say they're sitting on a whole bunch. What is an entity like that? What role do they have in the world then? When it's like, oh my God, do you realize how much Bitcoin they are sitting on? I can imagine they have their influence is a little crazy to think about.
Potentially. I mean, I think sooner or later it becomes a little preposterous, But there's always a seller. There's always a native seller. Like, the nice thing about BlackRock is, it's not just one entity that's controlling it. I mean, they control that Bitcoin, but they're not the quote-unquote owners of that Bitcoin, right? Like, they're holding it on behalf of their clients. So, with their clientele, being in ultimate control of that Bitcoin, their clients will sell for fiat profit. Like that, They're not in it because of, philosophical reasons. Philosophical Bitcoin holders hold Bitcoin.
Yeah, if they're going to stay in business, they have to honor their rules that they have customers that
expect. But they're beyond that. Like, the people that are BlackRock customers are not philosophically aligned with Bitcoin. They're philosophically aligned with fiat.
Right.
So when they have sufficient fiat profits, they will sell. So they're natural sellers and will always be natural sellers. So the amount of Bitcoin that those people hoard, I think, will be limited because they will see short-term profits and they will
that's true.
Prioritize their short-term profit over long-term philosophical, ideological views about Bitcoin. Whereas Bitcoin holders, actual tangible holders of Bitcoin, self-custody holders of Bitcoin, aren't going to be those people. So they're going to be the ones that benefit the most in the short term from massive fiat price accumulations and appreciation. But I don't think the concentration of BlackRock is necessarily an issue because they're just buying on behalf of speculators, really, like stock speculators. So, Saylor, I don't know what he's going to do when he ends up, by far the richest man in the world without question. Like,
I could see him, in a way, being charitable about it in a certain way, or at least investing in the good stuff, Bitcoin, pro-human stuff.
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, we don't know the guy.
We don't know.
We met him for 30 seconds at Bitcoin Miami. So
he's been very pro-education and
values. University. Yeah. I mean, you can kind of speculate on what his motivations might be, but, he's accumulating massive amounts of Bitcoin, and it is certainly there's a concentration there that's a little unsettling on any level. But it's still, his amount of Bitcoin doesn't affect your sovereign right to own Bitcoin, your self-sovereign right to own your property. Right? He may have more property than you, but you still have your property. So,
yeah, and even as there's, the MicroStrategy stock has outperformed Bitcoin, and even as people could say you saw that coming, given their business model and how they're leveraging Bitcoin, what they're doing, you'd say, hedge with MicroStrategy stock. I mean, that's a winner too. Even as I get that, part of me it's my stick in the mud sort of my philosophy about it is like, I don't want to own corporate stock personally.
That's a fiat mindset, right?
Yeah, I don't want to own something that's ultimately beholden to Saylor or a company or a broker, a market, cashing out ultimately in the dollar. It's not Bitcoin. And people say, it outperformed Bitcoin, and I'll just wait. And there's reasons for that. I get it. I just also can't hold it.
Yeah.
It's not Bitcoin. Right. So,
Well, I mean, if you're chasing a monetary premium, then yeah, buy MicroStrategy stock. But I'm not chasing a monetary premium. So, I mean, I guess on some level, you could say I was sort of hoarding in anticipation of monetary debasement, right? Which is a different thing than seeking a monetary premium on fiat. But ultimately, I'm more of an ideological holder, a philosophical holder.
Yeah.
And the monetary rewards from it are kind of, I mean, they're the deeper and deeper I get into the Bitcoin thing, the less and less important that becomes to me. You know, so right now it's, I mean, I kind of accelerated my little shift. I said by my birthday this year I was going to just go full on, like nothing, like the Jeff Booth thing. I'm going to focus all my attention on something that's important, that matters to me, not some fucking bullshit fiat fucking world thing. And so that timeline's been accelerated a little bit because it started yesterday, and yet now there's this moment of like, yeah, I'm going to go that way. Like, live or die. Like, I'll live in a box before I'll fucking go back, right? So, and we'll see how it goes. I mean,
fortune favors the brave, they say, you know?
Well, sometimes. I mean, I'm kind of an old fart, so it's not really the wisest thing from a fiat mindset, but I'm going to be down in LA. I'm going to be talking to people next week, and, you know, we'll see what comes of it, but it'll be nice to just say, with some conviction, to go, hey, well, I'm full-time Bitcoin now. Like, that's all I care about. That's all I'm working on. That's all I'm thinking about.
There may be doors that are sitting there open to you that you just aren't seeing right now, but have opened because,
yeah,
karma.
You never know.
And, yeah, you're ready for...
This fucking bug is trying.
I know, there's a little fly that's just, it's like...
Well, there's two of them. There's like a little
some
gnat,
puddle of shit over there?
and then there's a fucking fly.
We're the nicest smelling thing right here.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm excited for you because I think it does... You know, it opens doors. I've experienced that in my life where it's like, oh, geez, this is a different big change. And without that, I wouldn't have pushed myself forward where I needed to go because I was just comfortable or, well, no, I'm getting paid. Go away, you little piece of...
That's
squirrel.
not good TV.
And I think I mentioned to you, so, like, and when I was going through some, like, ornery feelings that I was having a couple months ago, and my dad's advice was, son, you know, boomer's advice, do what I did.
Tough it out.
Tough it out. What's another decade or two of your mental health?
Right.
You're going to get your PERS. You're being responsible to your family. You're going to get your raises. You got a secure job. You're doing good work. It's honorable work you're doing, which to an extent I get.
Sure.
I mean, someone's got to do this work. I am good at it. And if, say I can retire someday, maybe Social Security is worth anything, not. PERS worth something, maybe not. Maybe I'll have some numbers on my book sheet when I retire and I haven't gone crazy. Maybe it will all have been worth it because I raised my family and I have some numbers to show for it, even as everything is 10 times more expensive for no reason. And I'm so poor and nobody can understand it except Bitcoiners.
Right.
And it's like, no, tough it out, stick it out. The thing is, though, even my parents' generation, not that they're not well off, but they put in long, hard careers and retired and aren't like just well off.
Right. They're doing okay.
It's tight.
Yeah.
And it's not that you'd expect them to, having been, say, teachers your whole career, it's not that you're going to be wealthy, but you'd sort of think you don't have to worry month to month as much about stuff or the cost of health insurance. Like a big chunk of your monthly income post-retirement is like going to health insurance.
Right.
It's like, shit, my God. Or you still have a house you haven't paid off. It's like, my God.
Right.
It's just kind of the new normal.
Yeah, slavery is the new normal.
Yeah, and I would just think, if you're in your 70s, you think, I don't know, in America, after all this time in our economy, if it weren't for the money, you just think, man, people should be doing the American dream just fine, right?
Oh, they would be, yeah, without question.
And so in my generation, I kind of feel like, don't believe it. I'll probably die working in the fiat office.
Yeah, fiat mines.
And then my kids, I don't think they want to think about it. no reason you'd feel kind of down and depressed about, oh, fuck the world, or you'd feel kind of easily sucked into a stuck feeling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or, oh, must be nice, I'll never have anything. And then on the opposite spectrum is, gee, if I could be an influencer and famous or randomly rich like Mr. Beast, that's my goal. And they don't align with reality at all.
At all, yeah. That's a one in a million.
So there's just, even as they have access to learn all that they want about stuff, you see poor examples here and a slippery slope against you over here, and you're just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just get what I get, I guess.
Yeah.
Vote Democrat. More stuff, please. Free stuff, I think that's the answer. Give me more free stuff.
Yeah. The more free stuff I have, the better I'll be.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe I will be living in a box in a few months.
See how LA goes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how.
You're going there next week?
Yeah. Tuesday? 16th.
Cool. Coming right up.
Yeah. So, I'll be down there chatting with folks. Maybe I'll bring some books if I actually have some.
Probably should. You never know. You run into somebody and they show a lot of interest. Maybe it's somebody important enough to get one.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I changed around the order of my chapters. I put power before money, and I don't think power is as well written as the money chapter. So I feel like I should have just left money up front. But
I thought about that because when, as a topic, people kind of start with in their head the money,
right,
and behind the money is the power and the greed and all that.
Yeah,
but when I think about sort of the origins of money and stuff, philosophically, in a way, it's kind of, there's power that started first behind it.
Right.
And then it's the power that created reasons for money. It's kind of one of your points.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus, money just occurred on its own and then the power came.
Right.
No. What you're saying is that people didn't make money to make transactions that way. There was always power that consolidated, and the power benefited from money.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
100%.
kind of the point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it may not be obvious, but
we'll see. I mean, I just, I was reading through the section on power, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm making these points very well, which was a little troubling. I mean, I guess you can always be self-critical. I haven't really had any feedback from anybody. So, I mean, Fritz has given me some feedback, but, just in terms of like content, understandability, all that sort of stuff. But as I was reading it, maybe I'm being overcritical. I don't know, but
it's probably easily done that way. Like,
yeah,
something is very good, and you're always rethinking through every little thing that you might have done better.
Right.
But it's great. It's really good.
Oh, thank you.
And I told you that, I mean, even months ago, when just chapters 1, 2, parts 1 and 2 and stuff, when it was first coming out, I wrote notes down for you and stuff, but there were parts that I was just like, I have never thought of this before. Or like, I remember hearing about some of this, but here it is, and it makes sense now. I had these kind of mind-splitting open moments of, it makes more sense to me now.
Nice.
It did open my mind.
Well, that was sort of my hope for the whole thing, is like, because I hear a lot of people talking about things like money and the origins of money. I mean, like, Robert Breedlove has made an entire career off of, what is money. And I don't think anybody fundamentally gets it right. I mean, I don't think there is a right answer, quote unquote, but I think there are nuances that are missed by people pretty universally, And so my hope was to kind of crack that nut a little bit with this book and kind of just give people an idea of like, hey, some of these structures are pretty ancient and they're self-referencing. Like throughout history, you see the same kind of pattern going over and over and over again. But people leave out the part before the written word, and they go, well, where did this all come from? And they go, well, it started with the Greeks, and they had an army. And they're like, well, but the Greeks didn't just wake up one day with an army. Like that had to develop somehow. But most of that development occurred prior to them writing down what the hell they were doing, right? So there's a lot of speculation in there about like what that power structure looks like. But it's also referencing other power structures and where that came from and why I think this is probably closer to correct than some of the other current narratives. But, subject to debate. So, yeah, hopefully, I mean, maybe I'll run into a couple people. Like, there's some people on Twitter I would love to have read the book. Like, Justin Beckler, I'd love to hear his opinions on it.
He does great breakdowns on things.
Yeah, really, really smart guy. But like someone like Lawrence Leopard, I would love just to get his opinion on it. There's a handful of others out there. I mean, it would be like an absolutely astonishing thing to have someone like Lynn Alden read the book and, chime in. I'm kind of critical of one of her things in my money section, so I'm a little like...
Well, yeah, her Broken Money book still kind of leads with the argument that, money was created for liquidity, bartering reasons.
Trade. Well, I mean, what is it, her stock to flow model, right? Like, that's a big part of her book. And I kind of crap all over that idea in my book. So I'm a little like, I don't know if I could stand up to a debate with Lynn Alden about it. She's brilliant.
Here's what's tough with that.
Midwit, but
well, she's good at her. Well, she'll have monologues she can out technify you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's the thing. It's like I could have the right argument or philosophy, but I cannot argue TradFi acronyms and concepts. It'd be like, well, this and that and the other, and here's some razzle dazzle. Not judging it right or wrong at all. But I'd be like, can't argue that because I don't know those TradFi words.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, though, kind of get an idea of what people think. I mean, a little unfiltered sort of feedback is always good, I think. Yeah. But these are, most of the people I'm talking about are pretty brilliant thinkers. Like, if I had Samson Mao read the book, that would be huge. Michael Saylor read the book would just pop my brain. And I think I'm in alignment with sort of the Saylorian view of things, but I mean, he might get in there and go, you're a fucking idiot, dude. Like, I don't know where he came up with this shit. So, it's all sort of fanciful thinking, but it would be neat.
I think there's a hunger in the Bitcoin community when you start orange pilling and you start learning this and then that, and then your world opens up and it's a rabbit hole where suddenly you're like, oh my God, and then you can't turn it off, and it's a brain realignment.
Right.
And I think for a lot of people, I've gotten there where I feel like I got to a peak where I'm all there. And then there's always kind of this innate, like, what's the next level thing? Or what can we conclude from this? Or what's the next sort of puzzle piece that is the next, like, epiphany for me? And I'm always kind of looking for what that is. And if I've, not to say we've crested, but when you're there, and then you're kind of like, well, here I am for a while, and time goes by, you kind of settle into just that. And there's a hunger in a way for, one, Bitcoin to moon or something. Right. Yeah. My criticism of Mao would be that, or others in the past, Balaji or whatever, they're like, $1 million this year, and then it's just like a month later, it's like, why you got to say that, really?
Yeah, I don't mind that stuff.
But there's a hunger for Bitcoin to do something, nudge, nudge, do something.
Yeah.
There's also a hunger for kind of like, what's the next big idea?
Right.
Like, we're all here now. We've been here for a while, and other than like really nerdy layer 2, hey, there's ARC now for Lightning. It's like, okay, cool. But big picture, what's the next big thing? There's not a lot of it. I think there's a hunger for it, and I think this book has at least one or two of those in there. So one of which is, what is money? Or the origins of money.
Yeah.
I think that's an epiphany that anyone from Breedlove to Lynn Alden, Preston Pish, and others that I think are highly overly knowledgeable about everything, and also still just resort to, well, money's liquidity, barter, trade, happened on its own for people wanting to do stuff.
Yeah.
Not seeing the power behind making money.
Right. Exactly.
So
that'd be neat.
That's the kind of the next big epiphany, I think, that full-on maxi Bitcoiners that have been there for a while, it's like another step for them to go, oh, shit.
There's more to this.
There's, yeah.
But it deepens my appreciation for Bitcoin, too.
It does.
And that was sort of the core goal of all this, is like, I think I even mentioned in the book, is to kind of spread more Bitcoin thought, more Bitcoin discussion, more Bitcoin knowledge. And if I can be part of that conversation, then I'm already doing something good. And now that I've got all the time in the world to focus on that, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. It'll, like, for people who start seeing the Matrix or recognizing the Matrix, it kind of like, for me, it was like, I see more of the Matrix in a way.
Yeah.
It's that feeling.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
like, oh, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
All
good
right.
job. I mean, I'm super proud of you for having written that, just having made this, let alone writing it, but to have it produced, have it in hand.
Yeah.
It's work. It's proof of work.
right there.
Totally. So,
Yeah. Cool,
anyway,
man.
yeah.
I'm gonna kill that goddamn dog
It's still
before.
flying around.
Little motherfucker. Well, that's a pretty good show for so far.
Yeah, I think we covered everything for this week.
Yeah, got a little
Nothing
Travis
stands
in it.
out in my mind. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. Now that it's on River. I
again.
don't think the quality is super high on this, and it's already pretty low quality to begin with.
Looks good on the screen. But
It always looks great on the screen. By the time we get it on X, I'm always just like, oh, man.
a lot of people are just going to listen and not.
Yeah,
sit
but
there
that's part of the
serious.
problem.
And then part of the problem is that we sound like shit.
Yeah, like we got to fix it, man. I don't know.
Oh, I know. I got to just order these.
We're like 25 episodes deep, and we still got fucking.
It's
shitty
pathetic.
audio.
People are like, "Are you guys serious or just
No, we're just
LARPing
farting
clowns.
around. We're LARPing.
we're LARPing clowns?"
Yeah.
But we enjoy it, so
Yeah, so far,
can't
so
stop, won't stop.
good. I ordered a new Bitcoin app because this one's a little loose. It blew off in the wind.
Oh, geez.
But the thing is, it's my correct size. Like it's a 7 5/8 hat.
Maybe
I
it's
gotta-
those burpees. They're
leaning out my
you're,
skull.
you're leaning out. Yeah.
But well, I think they just sent me a 7 3/4 or just an off-size 7 5/8 because I got like a whole string of like sports branded New Era hats. 7 5/8, perfect. Which is a huge cranium, by the way. Like I'm like in the extra large.
I've got
head.
a small head. Well, I've got a normal sized face, and then my cranium is like
Just-
mini cone. It's
For real? I've just got a great big blockhead, apparently. Like, look at that thing. It's just a goddamn watermelon.
I wouldn't have noticed until I started cutting my hair so short. But yep.
Well, I could probably grow my hair out now, too. There's all kinds of fun shit I can do now. I might go rip a fat bong load.
You are free.
I'm free.
My wife wants me to grow my hair out. I was like, honey, it's going to be a weird, curly kind of a fro thing until it gets long enough for me to look
Slick
like a
it
real
back.
hippie.
Dude, just go with the mullet, man.
You know, Back to the Future, Doc Brown, kind of the.
Oh, yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm gray enough.
Yeah. Just
I want to have Doc Brown. I want to wear big, kind of loose, futuristic pajama pants, and I don't know,
Yeah. That'll be
a
great.
cloak. I'm going to wear a cloak.
I like it.
All right.
All right.
Good week.
Bye.
Next week.